So I want to talk about now kind of how the Hebrews would have understood love and how they would come to think about sex, because I think it's really helpful for you and I in a day and age where there's not a lot of help in this area, despite the fact is, as I said last week, there are 190,000 books written on sex on Amazon.com, 190,000 books on sex. And what happens is when sex becomes merely physical and not attached to the soul, all you're left with is technique to work on. Right, that's all, and that's why there's 190,000 manuals basically on how to have better sex. I think it's sad and absurd. So the Hebrews had multiple words for love. We don't. I think it's one of the weaknesses of the English language. Like, we just have love. So we love tacos, we love fajitas, we love the Cowboys, we love our wife, we love our dog, we love our spouses, we love our children, we love our car. That's all we got. We just got this word, love, right? We love our friends, we love our new computer, we love the new iPhone. That's all we've really got. But the Hebrews had multiple words, much like the Greeks. And so if you've got a church background, you know the same is true for the Greeks, who had multiple words for love, right? You have phileo, which means friends. You have eros, which is kind of the erotic love, right? You've got agape, which is this kind of full-on, I love you no matter what. You've got these unconditional love, right? The Hebrews did this the same way. They actually had more than three, but I'm going to share the three that I think build on top of one another, that gave them a right understanding of sex in a way that it might flourish. The first is the Hebrew word raya. Right? Raya. And raya is friendship. That's basically what it is. Like we see it in Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all time. Raya is just friendship. And so this is the foundation upon which relationships grow. Whether they become relationships that are that have a sexual component to it or not, the base, the foundation of companionship for the Hebrews is this idea of raya. It's friendship. It's I know you, you know me, and we're getting to know one another. And then raya flows into the second word, which is ahava. And ahava is a love of the will. All right, it's a love of the will. So raya leads to ahava, and here's how that kind of works. When you start a friendship, you kind of get a version of a person, and then as your friendship grows, you begin to see more and more and more about that person. Well, ahava occurs when you begin to see the weaknesses of the other and decide to stay anyway. So ahava, word for love, is not an overly romantic word, if you will, right? So don't think, ahava, love of the will. He sees me, she sees me. They're like, oh, my heart's fluttering. I will to love him. No, this is much more, this person's crazy and I'm not going anywhere. That's a good way to think about ahava. This person has some problems and I'm not going anywhere. This is ahava. So in order to get to, remember we talked about dode, a mingling of souls. In order to get to that, there's a deep friendship now rooted in commitment. I've seen you're crazy. I'm not going anywhere. I think one of the more romantic ideas around marriage that I think are somewhat silly is that like you're just not supposed to fight a lot. When Lauren and I were dating, we just kept getting into the same fight over and over and over again. It always had kind of a different kind of starting point, but it was actually the same argument. And so I went to David McQueen, who was one of my mentors and dear friends, and I said, hey, I love Lauren Walker. I really do. I want to make her my wife. I just think she's got a real love for the Lord that I love. But man, we just keep getting in this fight. I mean, it's like a 6-week cycle. It blows up, and then we've got to talk through it again. And then, man, we do well for it, and then it blows up again. And he said, well, okay. And he said to me something that it was both the most encouraging and discouraging thing I'd ever heard. He said this to me. He said, you're going to fight with someone the rest of your life. Do you want that person to be Lauren? So I was like, you know what? I do want to fight with Lauren the rest of my life. And here I am, 2017, all these years later, still fighting with Lauren. Right? Because that stuff's ahava. That's a love of the will. That I'm not going anywhere. Lauren, I see you're crazy and I'm staying. Lauren says, hey, I see you're crazy and I'm staying. I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to ahava our love. It's not just friendship. It's deeper than friendship. It's I'm stepping into this, not stepping away from this. And so for the Hebrews, to get to dode, which was this mingling of souls, sex that it was intended to be, not a mere physical act, but the joining, the weaving together of two individuals into one, it required friendship that was committed. And then, and only then, could you experience sex as God designed it to be. Now, I just want to always say, I don't think you have to be a Christian to enjoy sex. Biologically, sex is pleasurable. So it's not like you have to know Jesus in order to have sex. But what I am saying is the fullness of what you've been created for and what God designed sex to be will always be missed by you without an understanding and submission to the God of the Bible. And here's why. Because without soul-level harmony, right? Without this understanding that we've been put together as companions to partner for the glory of God, then we might be able to come together physically, we might be able to come together emotionally, but we'll never come together spiritually. That dode mingling won't ever take place. So sex will always hit a kind of ceiling, and we see this happening everywhere, which is why we're so consumed with technique. That's why we're so consumed with technique. And so if you want to think about sexual relationship like God does, it's strong friendship rooted in strong commitment where you are known, valued, and loved, where two become one flesh. Now, what makes this a little bit more difficult is the physical act is a lot easier than building an ongoing friendship and continuing to lean in when things get difficult, right? Because what happens is the physical relationship is somewhat easy compared to these other two, and yet it's in these other two that lead to a better, more soul-rich sex life. So if you punt on friendship, you punt on commitment, then sex will always be hollowed out in its ultimate meaning, because God has designed for you, ladies, look at me, for you to be cherished as a soul before you are enjoyed as a body. You have been designed by God to be cherished as a soul, to be valued, to be seen as someone of great worth. And that can't happen if there's not a friendship there that's gotten so deep that your weaknesses have now been seen. And then it's in your weaknesses being seen and someone extending that graciousness going, hey, I love all that brokenness in you, man. I'm broken too. You're broken, man. We should kind of heal up together as we partner with one another, glorify God. This is why sex is reserved for marriage, because it's in that kind of relationship, the covenant, locked in, monogamous. I'm not going anywhere. Ava, working on raya and enjoying dode because of the deep friendship and commitment that we have to one another, right?